We're on Daf Tesamid Beis, about to start Daf Yud, and we're up to Rav Safra. That's 2 lines before the end of the Amud. And we're going back to Rav and Rav Chia. And the Gemara had a kasha on Rebbe based on Rav and Rav Chia, because it would seem that based on Rav and Rav Chia, we are entering into a machlokes, and that's against Rebbe, who says that b'plukta lo kamari. But now the Gemara presents another alternative tradition of Rav and Rabbi Chia, and that is Rav Safra B'Targem. And he says that indeed all the cases of the various arayos are included under shtei achios. Af eshes achiv shelo haya ba'olamo mishkachas. So in order to appreciate Rav Safra, my suggestion is that we review the previous Gemara of my Taima, which was 1 line earlier, here on Daf Tesamid Beis, to figure out why the Gemara assumed initially before Rav Safra that Achiv Shelo Haya Ba'olamo is not included in the Mishnah of Shtei Achios. And the reason for that is because the Rab Shimon hu b'mishkachas lo, the Rabbanan lo mishkachas lo. And therefore we're going to apply the principle of Rebbe that b'plukta lo kamayri. That was the last thing we discussed yesterday from the diagram Ayin Gimel, here on the bottom left. And it worked out that only according to Rab Shimon is there a possibility of Shtei Achios. So let's see if we can recap that. So the case is as follows. We have 4 brothers, Ruvain, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. We'll soon see that we're going to add another 2 brothers because we're talking about Achiv Shelo Haya Ba'olamo. So these 4 brothers are all sharing the same, coinciding the same existence. Now we have 2 sisters, and 2 of these 4 brothers are married to 2 sisters. So the 2 sisters are Rachel and Leah. And Ruvain marries Rachel. All right, let's just get that down. And Shimon, marries Leah. Okay. Now what happens? Meis Ruvain below Banim. So if you have the Masechet again, we're on Tesamid Beis number Vav on the top left, reviewing what we did yesterday. Ruvain dies without children. He was married, we said, to Rachel. And now Rachel falls for Yibum to Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. Now Levi takes the initiative, and he marries Rachel, the wife of the late Ruvain. Shimon dies without banim. Leah falls for Yibum in front of the brothers. And Ruvain is already gone, so we're left with Levi and Yehuda. And then at that moment, Zvulun is born, a 5th brother. And when Zvulun is born, then Leah, the wife of Shimon, again, Shimon died, and then Zvulun was born. Please remind us, when I say us, I mean me, royal, right? So what happens is that after Shimon dies, and Shimon was married to Leah, then Zvulun is born. So on the one hand, on the one hand, Go over this one more time. Levi was miyabem Rachel. Ashes Ruvain. Shimon dies. And now we have Leah Ashes Shimon, who falls for Yibum. And then Zvulun is born. So it's very interesting because the status of Zvulun is a complicated status. Why? Because if you're going to talk about Rachel, Levi was already miyabem Rachel Ashes Ruvain before Zvulun was born. But if you're going to talk about Leah, the wife of Shimon, Zvulun was born during the lifetime of Shimon, which means at that moment in time, the relationship between Zvulun and Leah is that of an Erev. So he says, "Umatzes Leah Ashes Shimon Asura Lav Mishum Ashes Achiv Shelo Haya Be'olama." 1 second, because when did Shimon die? Shimon had already died. Then Zvulun was born. So as far as Zvulun is concerned, not only was he Lo Haya Be'olama of Reuven, he was Lo Haya Be'olama of Shimon as well. So therefore, the wife of Shimon is going to be an erva to Zvulun, and that's called Ashes Achiv Shelo Haya Be'olama. And now, second, okay, and now Yehuda is miyabim Leah, Ashes Shimon. So we have now Levi married to Rachel and Yehuda married to Leah, correct? And the wife of Rachel according to the Shita Reb Shimon, the Tana Reb Shimon, the wife of Rachel, I'm sorry, I meant to say the wife of Reuven, Rachel, who's now the wife of Levi. Do we have it right? So she falls for Yibum to Zvulun. Why? Because Zvulun was born, again, this according to the Tana Reb Shimon, Zvulun was born after Levi had already consummated his Yibum, his marriage to Rachel. So when Zvulun comes onto the scene, he just has a relationship with Levi. And he's alive during Levi's lifetime, correct? But now we can talk. Now, let's analyze this from the perspective of Leah, the wife of Shimon. Shimon now dies, and Yehuda is miyabim Leah, the wife of Shimon. Now, Levi and Yehuda die, and according to Shimon, just 1 minute. Where is Yisachar in this picture? Did we get to Yisachar yet? Arei l'shitas Reb Shimon, Rachel asura Yisachar. Where did I miss Yisachar? I'm sorry, I apologize. Can somebody help me out here?
So he's born after Reuven dies, but before Levi is in Yavin.
But did I miss him?
No, you mentioned that.
I did mention Yisachar. I don't remember.
And then
just 1 second. Rachel fell for Yibum, Rachel fell for Yibum after the death of Ruvain, and then Yisachar was born. Oh, so 1 second. So Yisachar is lo haya ba'olamo of Ruvain, and therefore the Yibum of Levi to Rachel is irrelevant to Yisachar. Let's just see what happens here. Oh, Rachel asura li Yisachar, because that's lo haya ba'olamo. Oh, but Muteretz L'Zvulun. Why? Because Levi consummated the Yibum with Rachel before the birth of Zvulun. Did I get that right? Muteretz L'Zvulun shenolad achrei shenisiyab mo Levi.
Yisachar born before.
Right.
And before Levi.
Right. Ooh, Yisachar.
Mhm.
Right. But Zvulun is born afterwards. If I got that right.
After.
So now I think we could have a situation of shtei achos. Let's see if that works out. He says, all right, L'shitas Reb Shimon, Rachel asura li Yisachar. Okay, that makes sense. But she is muteres l'zvulun shenolad achrei shenisyav mo Levi. But v'ena achos sekukasa. Second. Even Chalea achosa enos kukalo. Right. What's the relationship between Zvulun and Leah? Let's just see if we can work that out. What's the relationship between Zvulun and Leah? Zvulun was born. Right. Leah is Asura. Why? Because Leah is Ashes Achim. Right? Motzas Leah, Ashes Shimon, Asura Olav. We're talking now about Zvulun. Mishum Ashes Achim Shalochaya Ba'olam. That's as far as Leah is concerned. So Rachel is fine, but Leah is not. So therefore, we can have a case of Asura L'zeh, Muteres L'zeh. All right, L'shitas Reb Shimon, Rachel Asura L'Yisachar, Muteres L'Zvulun, Shenolad Achri, right? V'ena Achos Kukaso, Kevin Shalea Achosa Enes Kukalo. So therefore, Zvulun could be Miyabim, the wife of Leah. I'm sorry, the wife of Levi. That's Rachel. Correct? Rachel is the sister of Leah, but as far as Leah is concerned, no problem. Why? Because, no, just 1 second. As far as Rachel is concerned, it's no problem. As far as Leah is concerned, Leah is Asura L'Zvulun, Mishum Sha'isa Eshes Shimon, Shlo Haya Ba'olamo Shel Zvulun. And Yehuda had not yet been Miyabim Leah. But on the other hand, the relationship between Rachel and Yisachar is what? Is Ashes Achiv Shalohay Olam. So that works out according to Reb Shimon. Now, Avol Rabbanon, let's just make a note. Avol Rabbanon. I don't think we got this far yet. If we did, I managed to forget it overnight. Havel Rabbanon, Rachel Asura Gam L'Zvulun. Even though what? Even though Levi was miyabim Rachel before Zvulun was born, nevertheless, it's Eishes Achim Shalohay B'Olam. Lo Mahani Masha Matzah Beheter, because the Chacham go back to the original Ichus to Ruvain. So Rachel was married to Ruvain. She becomes Eishes Achim as far as Zvulun is concerned. And therefore, it's going to be Asura on both of them. Yudalid, what does he write here? Yudalid. Okay, so that's what we had until Rav Safra. Now Rav Safra b'targem af eishes achim shlochaya ba'olamo mishkachas lo b'shita achim v'al liba de Rav Shimon. So we have in 6 cases and 6 different scenarios where, according to Rabbi Shimon, you would have shtei achos. And therefore, even though Rabbi Shimon is a das yachid, so to speak, I mean he is subject to the descent of the Chachamim, nevertheless, we're holding now the Plukta Kamayr. And Simonov, he says, Meis Nolad V'yibe, Meis Nolad V'yibe. So Ruvain died and Yisachar was born. Levi was Miyabe Meishis Ruvain, or Mes Shimon. And then Zvulun was born and Yehuda was Miyabe Meishis Shimon, Levi. Is Keman Dilarab Shimon, Titochen, Mitzir Shaleishis Ach Shalahay B'Lam Shetem Muteres Zeh Basul Zeh Al Ken Yishlom Shav Mishnah No Ketes Ach B'Ofen Zeh. And then it comes out that we're against Rebbe. Im Kein Kasha Harei L'Divrei Rav Safra Shana Rabbi Chia and Rav and Rabbi Chia B'Divrei HaMishnah Klal Shel Shtei Achos Ach B'Ofen She'No Ola El L'Shitas Reb Shimon. And therefore, he's entering into a machlokes, and that's against Rebbe. And Rebbe, in fact, made fun of Levi, who wanted to add Anusas Aviv to the list, because that's totally in a machlokes Tanoim, and Rebbe maintains that Bepluta Loka Meir. So the Gemara is now asking, according to Rav Safra, shall we assume that our Mishnah is Bepluta Kamayri against Rebbe? Ella l'Rebbe hani kloli lesna. Meaning, if I understand correctly, Rebbe doesn't have that flexibility to accept klolim that can work out only according to one shita. Like, for example, Eishes Achim Shalahay B'Olam in the case of Shtei Achios, Muteres Zeh Zeh, which only reflects the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda, of Rabbi Shimon, and Rebbe never accepted. Now the Gemara offers another possibility. So again, at this point in the discussion, when Rebbe pushes Levi out, and he tells me he has no brains in his head, that's because Rebbe L'Shitaso, against this transmission of Rav Safra, holds that Bepluta Lo Kamayri. So don't talk to me, Levi, about Anusas, Imo Me Anusas Ovid. But in fact, Levi is not out in the cold, because Rav Safra would introduce into the Mishnah Eishes Achim Shalahay B'Olamo with Shtei Achios Muteres Zeh that can only be justified according to Rav Shimon, which means Bepluta Kamayr. So I'm just pointing out here that Levi is not a lone ranger here. It's not the only one who maintains that Bepluta Kamayr. But now the Gemara offers a different approach. Rav Ada Karchina, not sure, but I think Karchina either means he came from a place by that name or he's bald. I don't know. Ame de Rav Kana, Mishmei de Rava. So he transmits the Torah of Rava to Rav Kana. Li'olam Islay LeRebi Hani Klal. So Rebbe accepts the klal of Rav and Rav Chia, and we're always going to apply the principle Asur L'Zeh Mutas L'Zeh, even in the case of Eishes Ach Shelo Bolamo, despite the fact that that din could only work out, could only reflect the sheet of Rav Shimon, and it's okay. We can mention a din that's dependent upon one shita in a machlokas. So why did Rebbe reject Levi? This is what Rebbe was telling Levi when Levi presented the possibility of imo anusas of. And we're here on the top of Daf Yudam and all. Okay. Imo anusas aviv bechado mishkachas lo betarte lo mishkachas. He writes here, Mishnah B'tchila B'perak, B'tchilas Perak Arba'ach, and that's on Daf Chov. Muva Shnei Mikrim, Echad Shnei Achos, Naflu L'Yibam L'fnei Shnei Achim, Ukmo Chen Haisa Achas Asura Ala Echad Umtes L'Sheni. Fine. But Imo Anusas Aviv is Bechada Mishkachasla, B'ofen Echad Motzi Ata Din Zeh, Osha Asura L'Zeh Mutes L'Zeh, Avalo Shtei Achios, or the reverse is possible. Shtei Achios, Aval Rak Achas Me'ene Anusas Aviv, Achachosa Muteres L'Shneim. Aval B'tarte Lo Kamish Kachas. Okay, so it's impossible to have two Yevamos that are sisters that fell in front of two brothers, in which case one is Asura, one of these two sisters, Asura al Yavam Echad, Mishum Imo Anusas Aviv, the Achosa, a Asura al Yavam Asheni, be also Isur. Right, so in Shtei Achios, we're saying that there's a certain Isur that applies to one of the sisters vis-a-vis one of the brothers, and that same Isur will apply to the other brother vis-a-vis the second sister. But it's always going to be the same Isur that falls on one of these two ladies for one of these two brothers. But in the case of Imo Anusas Aviv, you cannot have a possibility of Achosa Te Osal Yom Masheni B'Yoso Is, that the sister will be an erva, that same erva to the other brother. So you can't have emo twice. Emo of Anusas Aviv could not be possible in two sisters vis-a-vis two brothers, in which one is Muteres and the other is Asur. And now the Gemara explains why that's so. So we're trying to explain why it's impossible to have Muteres Lezeh Asur Lezeh with regard to Imo Anusas Aviv V'shtei Achim. Why is that so? I Yaakov Shtei Achios Onas So Yaakov had an honest relationship with two sisters. We'll call them Rachel and Leah. Now Rachel gives birth to Levi. And Leah gives birth to Yehuda. One second. Are Yehuda and Levi related to each other? I'm not sure. What? They have the same father. Does he point that out? One second. Yaakov, Shtei Achios Onas. And now he has Rachel. Yodel of Rachel. Rachel becomes the mother of Levi. Leah becomes the mother of Yehuda. So that Levi and Yehuda are maternal brothers. Are you saying they're also both sons of Yaakov? I don't think so. I think that they are.
Yeah.
There was
One second. Yaakov, Shtei Achios Onas. Right?
and one of the children was like
A child of each of them.
Shalom. Yeah. Yolda Lo, Rachel Levi. Levi is a grandson to Yaakov. No? A son to Yaakov? One second. Yolda Lo. Oh, I see. So he's Ma'anes Rachel. And he's Ma'anes Leah. So Levi and Yehuda are brothers through the father. Do they share the same mother? No, they don't share the same mother. Correct? Okay.
their mothers of sisters.
And their mothers are sisters. Okay. Uli Yaakov od shnei banim mi'isha Ruvain v'Shimon. There must be some logic as to why he sets up the names in that way. But anyway, Nimta, Sheruvain, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Achmei Av. So all these four share the same father, Yaakov. And two of these brothers have mothers who are sisters. And the other two brothers, are only related to them from the father. One second, who is the mother? Isha Cheres. It's an unnamed, anonymous woman. And those are Ruvain and Shimon, right? Let me just underline it. So Yaakov od shnei banim mi'isha Cheres, Ruvain v'Shimon. Okay. Nimtza. So Ruvain v'Shimon Levi Yehuda Achmei Av. Oh, okay, fine. Now what happens? Nasa Ruvain Es Rachel. So Reuven again it comes from a different mother, and he's allowed to marry Rachel, Anusas Oviv. Right? So you might say, well, Yaakov was married to Rachel, but he wasn't married. If he had married Rachel, then Reuven could not marry a woman who was married to his father. But since it was a rape situation, Reuven is allowed to marry Rachel, Anusas Aviv, and Rachel is the mother of Levi. Okay, that we said before. Yolda Rachel es Levi. So that means that if Rachel would fall for Yibum to Levi, that would be an erev of Imo. Right? In other words, Reuven is marrying Rachel, which he's allowed to marry Rachel because Rachel was never married to Yaakov, his father. If Reuven dies and Rachel now falls for Yibum in front of Levi, because Levi is a maternal brother of Reuven, then it's his own mother who's falling for Yibum. Why? Because when Yaakov had this rape situation with Rachel, she gave birth to Levi. So Rachel is Levi's mother. And she's falling for Yibum from Reuven because Reuven was allowed to marry Rachel because Rachel was not married to Yaakov. It was only Anusas Aviv. So we have now Rachel potentially falling for Yibum to Levi. Now what happens? Shimon Nasa es Achosa Leah. Even though again Leah was, don't take me literally, was Ki'ilu married to his father Yaakov. So how could Shimon marry Leah? But the answer is that that Yaakov was not married to Leah. Leah was Anusas Aviv. And now her status is that she's Imo Shel Yehuda. Why? Because Yaakov had a rape situation with Leah, and Yehuda was born from that relationship. And now Leah's situation is that she's the mother of Yehuda. Now, Mesu, Ruvain, the Shimon, believe Banim. Okay, so now Ruvain and Shimon die. And Ruvain was married to Rachel, and Shimon was married to Leah, the sister of Rachel. So if I understand correctly, at this point, if Ruvain and Shimon die, then Ruvain's wife Rachel, as well as Shimon's wife Leah, fall for Yibum, and they are two sisters. And now, Achosa shehi yevimta mishkachas la asur lezeh mutaz lezeh lo mishkachas. So you have two sisters, that's Rachel and Leah, falling for Yibum, and both are falling for Yibum. Second, and they are both emo. Second, they're not emo for both of them. What does he mean? That asur l'seh lo mishkachas? Why? Sharei Kishem shekol achas men asura al b'no mishum imo, asura gam achosa olav. Oh, here he introduces achos imo. Okay, that was the piece of the puzzle that we were missing, that I was missing anyway, of achos imo, right? Because again, when they fall for Yibum, that means Rachel and Leah fall for Yibum to Levi and Yehuda, so that one of them is a mother to Levi, right? And that's Rachel. But then Leah is Levi's mother's sister, and you can't marry your mother's sister. You can't marry your mother's sister. Just 1 second. Right. It's interesting. An uncle could marry a niece, but a nephew cannot marry his aunt. Okay, fine. That's for a different discussion. So what's the upshot of this whole discussion? That in the case of Anusas Aviv and Shtei Achios, we cannot come up with Asura Lezeh Muteres Lezeh because of the error of Achos Imo. So now that's going to explain to Levi where he made an error. So Rebbe is coming hard down on Levi because Levi, you're talking about Anusas Aviv, we cannot get Imo me Anusas Aviv in a Shtei Achios situation because she's always going to be an aunt. You know, either it's a mother or it's an aunt. And Mimonov Shach, Levi and Yehuda did not have a shot at Yibum of Rachel and Leah, either because Levi vis-a-vis Rachel is a son vis-a-vis his mother, and Levi vis-a-vis Leah is the sister of his mother. And the same is true for Yehuda. So therefore, Rebbe says that we couldn't have possibly added Imam Anusas Aviv to the list of 15 arayas because the Mishnah later on is going to insist that in all 15 cases we have the Shtei Achios Asur Lezeh Muteres Lezeh, which is not true. Now, Ve'ish Shtei Nochrios Onas. Now we're going to take a different scenario. Instead of Yaakov having an honest relationship with two sisters, he has with two women, Nochrios. They're not related to each other. Now he says, V'yoldu es Levi v'Yehuda. V'yoldu es Levi v'Yehuda. Yoldula, right? Yoldula. So one of them was the mother of Levi, the other of Yehuda. It's exactly like the previous case, just that the two rape victims, so to speak, were not sisters. Yakach nisu hanusos leRuven v'Shimon b'nei Yaakov u'meisu b'nafla hanusos b'nei Levi v'Yehuda tzir ayin hey. באופן זה אסור לזה מותרס לזה משכחס לו, היינו שאישס ראובן מותרס ללוי, אישס שמעון מותרס ליהודה. Why? Because since they're not sisters, there's no erev of achos imo, so that one of these two is a mother, but the other one is not related to him at all. Is achosa shehi avimta lo mishkachas. He's saying the following, that you might have argued that in Shtei Nochrios we could have what? We could have Asur Lezeh Muteres Lezeh. Yeah, but that's not that's not a case of achosa because they're not sisters. What we have to come up with is a case of asur b'zev muteres and shtei achos. So asur b'zev muteres mishkachas la, fine, but achosa sheyevimta, where you could be mater yibum in one of the two sisters, lo mishkachas la, because this is not a case of two sisters. The ikar chidush hamishna hu sha'af sha'adam osur b'achosa kukaso, but in this case, where one of the two is an erva, she's not called achosa kukaso. It could be miyav and the other sister. Ach im has kuka asur mishum erva eini nechshavas kukaso. Therefore, there's no isur b'achosa kukaso. Al ken achosa muteres lo. Aval kishishtei nachriel zu lezu beintach ein kan isur achosa kukaso. In came muvan, it's understood me'elov madulo nokta mishnah iman of alusasov. And for that, Levi gets it over the head. Levi didn't study these diagrams. Okay, so now we'll take a look at the Yalkut Habi'ud. So I think we got up to Ayin Zion. And over on the left column, a paragraph that starts with Vistapeka or Zarua. And we had the case of the Yerushalmi. And the Or Zarua has the following suffix. Ha'im kavanas Yerushalmi l'tarit tzdak madua lo nishnesa balas tnai zuba mishnah. So the purpose and the goal of the Yerushalmi is just to answer why balas tnai is not mentioned in the Mishnah. Avalidina oteres hi es sarasa, which means it really does fit into the pattern of the Mishnah, but it's not similar to achos ishto. Oshe kavanasu mishum she'enet dom lachos ishto she makar leftur erva. I would have written leftur tzara here, leftur tzaras. Salkein al liba the emes af al liba the emes eno poteres es tzaros. So la halacha, in the case of Balas Tanai, we're not sure what the Yerushalmi's final conclusion would be as far as pattering up the tzara. Second. One second here. And this case is the case where what? Where he says to, right, Reuven says to his wife, Hareat megureshes mimeni, chutz miploni. One second, and then what happens? He's matir hota ploni. Is the case of kiddushin. It's like a balas tonight. I'm going to assume, correct me if I'm wrong, they were talking about kiddushin. So he says, Hareat mekudeshes li, chutz miploni, meaning as far as so and so is concerned, we call him Shimon. My kiddushin doesn't generate an iser. Shimon went ahead and married the wife of Reuven, and now when she falls for Yibum, she's an Erev of Eishes Ish. Why? Because she's married to Reuven. As far as the Erev to Shimon is concerned, that's the mitzvah of Yibum. But as far as Reuven is concerned, he's not related in any way to Levi. Levi is the brother of Shimon. He's not related to Reuven, and therefore she's got an Eishes Ish situation. And the Yerushalmi says that the reason why this case is not mentioned in the Mishnah as another erva of Eishes Ish is because, as Yerushalmi, it would not logically apply to Pater Tzara, because the paradigmic case of Pater Tzara is going to be Achos Ishto, and Ashes Ish doesn't fit into that paradigm. So the Arzarua is mistapek. What does Yerushalmi intend with his answer? Is it intending to claim that there is no Patur of Tzara in the case of Ashes Ish, or is it just claiming that it doesn't fit into the pattern of the Mishnah? The Mishnah is patterned after Achos Ish. Right, they have to have an ability to marry both of them. If you don't have the ability to marry both of them, neither of them are included under Yibum. Right? We don't have to match up to the paradigmic case of Achos Ishta. Is therefore Elagak Lefarish Madulo Nishnasab Mishnah. Aval Ein Bekach Shum Svar Shalo Tiftar Es Tzarasa. In other words, what the Yamshel Shlomo is pointing out is that if you accept the sheet of Rebbe, then clearly the Yerushalmi is only giving a technical answer why Ashes Ish, in the case of Balas Tanai, is not listed in the Mishnah, but there certainly would be no reason to activate the Ptur of Tzaras Erva. No, what did I just say? I think I just said the opposite of what I meant to say. What I meant to say is that there should be a Ptur of Tzaras Erva. I think I said the opposite. Anyway, there should be a Ptur of Tzaras Erva according to Rebbe, because Rebbe doesn't have the Joshua Litzor in the Parsha of Achos Ishto. And therefore, the Yerushalmi's logic of Ashes Ish is not similar to Achos Ishto, would not have any application according to Rebbe, and like any other Erva, we would have a Ptur of Tzaras Erva. But what comes out strange, according to the Yamshel Shlomo, and I think we've discussed this in the past, but I don't remember what we said, it would seem to be problematic why the Mishnah, after exhausting the list of 15 arayos, did not add a 16th erev of Ashes Ish, which would part of the Tzara according to Rebbe. And we're certainly working out this Mishnah according to Rebbe, because the whole sugya that we're learning about Shtei Achios with Rebbe and Levi is Rebbe himself. So we're trying to interpret this Mishnah according to Rebbe. So what would be the answer to that? Why according to Rebbe, Ashes Ish is not added to our Mishnah? Did we discuss this? I think we once discussed it, but I don't remember what we said. Give me a minute. Oh yeah, I think we said, because Rebbe Shita is at Bepluta Loka Mairi, and this possibility of giving Kiddushin, Chutz Miploni, is a machlok shin Rabbi Elazar and Rabban. So therefore, it's not going to be added here. Now, both sides, I want to learn with you this Chuvas Arash, but honestly, I don't understand it. But together we're going to figure it out. I have a Buddha B'tach. I'm a garish as ishto al manas shalotinose leploni. So he's matir her for the whole world except for so and so. And now he wants to rescind his condition. He wants to be matir her even for so and so. No. What he means at this point is that the Maisa Gerushin was given with a Tanai, and the Maisa Gerushin could only achieve Gerushin up to the definition and the potential of that Maisa Gerushin. Maisa Gerushin would not effectuate a gerushin as far as Ploni is concerned. So now he wants to change his mind. So what? But you already gave the get. Now, what would be the next logical conclusion then, according to the Rosh? If he wants to be matir so-and-so, another get. Rosh says that won't do it. Here's where I need your help. He says, Ein lo takana b'kach, she'yiten lo get acher, not. Why doesn't he just forget about the first get and substitute a second get without a t'nai? Such as he's being matir her even to Ploni. No, that won't work, says the Rosh. So I think the Rosh is saying that the gerushin exists. He cannot replace the gerushin with another get. There is a gerushin already. A man cannot be medaric his grusha. Now it's true that gerushin did not effectuate a gerushin as far as Ploni, so why not set up a substitute get that would be meaningful only as far as Ploni is concerned, to be matir her to Ploni, and the Rosh says he can't do such a thing, even with a second get. Why not? In other words, if a get can work for everyone but one person, why can't a get work for one person? I mean, the numbers don't seem to, the majority versus minority, that statistical calculation doesn't seem to bear any. Now, what is the Rosh's solution to this problem? We'll come back to this in a minute. Ella, in Rotzel Atir also Ploni, Tzarech Loshuv Ulakaja, he's got to remarry her. Veloses Lagenach. Now, here I don't understand what's going on. It's very nice that he now remarries her, but what about the first time he married her? The first marriage. Second, let me just. Right, the first marriage terminated in a divorce, which excluded so and so. Oh, I see what he's saying. In other words, although the first marriage did not effectuate an Iser Eishes Ish to Ploni, the second marriage will effectuate an Iser Eishes Ish to Ploni because he has no T'nai. It's all inclusive. Just 1 second. So in other words, now he marries her again. And now marries her again. What happened? The first round he gave her a get,
And so there's no,
Ploni, correct?
then there's no marriage for him to give a second get for plumbing. There's no marriage.
Wait, Jeff, can you give me 1 more minute?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I got myself a little bit tongue-tied here. I want to hear what you say. I just want to make sure I'm oriented here. My head is twisted on right. Again, he gave her a get, almanas chutz Ploni, right? So it means that as far as Ploni is concerned, yeah, go ahead. Now I think I got it. What are you saying?
No, I'm saying that in the first case that the Rush says is no good, gives the get, puts him in plumbing,
Right.
and there's no more Nisuin for him to give a second. The Gershon goes on, just come out of, and the marriage is gone.
Marriage is gone, except for that Ploni. But that's not enough. That, holding on to one little piece of marriage. I'm holding on to dear life to that last branch, as I'm falling into the river. That's not enough to justify and validate a second get, which would remove the ishus of his original marriage vis-a-vis Ploni. That's the premise of the Rosh. I mean, you could argue against the Rosh, but it's not the worst tragedy. Oh, so now we're trying to figure out. So what does he do? He remarries her, and he gives her a get. But again, she's still tied to him as far as that flow from the first marriage. You understand? I'm just missing that one part, but I think I had it. Now I lost it. How is the second marriage with the get when she's still attached? Mashmas the first. No, I don't have. I need your help. How is the second marriage? In the first marriage is still alive and well because this guy he's being boiled and Ashes each, pardon the expression, as far as the first marriage is concerned. So now he has a new Ishus with her, and he gives her an absolute unqualified get. But so what? All you need is a gerish. So what's going to happen now? According to the Rosh, the second get will remove both Ishus? Is that what it's saying? Or he's saying you don't even need to remove?
I mean, it created a new issues that he's removing from everybody.
Yeah, but what about the first Ishus? The first is still alive and well. Why not?
Because that got expanded to everybody again when he married.
Oh, so now you're saying something different, Steve. You're saying what I wanted to say, which makes no sense, I think, that the second Ishus is really a resurrection of the first Ishus.
I mean, it
Do
overlays.
you follow my point?
It removes it and it overlays it with the new one.
Right, it's sort of like Rabbi Shimon when Levi went ahead and he was miyabed Ishus Reuben, that the Ishus to Reuben is completely gone. When I remarry like Rucha, then the original marriage is gone. Again, it's not gone, so to speak, but it's swallowed up somehow magically by the second marriage. If you don't say that, and I think there's an element of marriage, there's a leap of faith, then I don't understand the rush. Because if you're going to separate between the first Ishus, the second Ishus, the get, according to the Rosh, the second get could not replace the first get. So what are you going to tell me? That now he remarries her, and there's a new issue, and now he gives her a second get. Yeah, but that second get cannot replace the first get. The first get was ineffective, and therefore the first Ishus is still alive and well as far as Ploni is concerned. And Elo Takanam Kach Shitin La Get Achadol tonight, Ellen Rotzel Atira Loso Ploni, who Tzarch Loshu Lekachta, Lekacha, but Losses La Get Achad. Wow. I'm telling you, this is, if I'm going to be very extreme here, but dramatic. If the Rosh would have said this in my share, I would tell him to pack his bags. I don't understand the logic of the Rosh. He says, Ulefi Divrei Rosh, Ein biyada megarish latira kodem sheyomos echad. Now here I'm totally lost. Who's dying here? 1 second. Are we in a Yibum situation now? Did we jump into Yibum? Ein biyada megarish latira kodem sheyomos echad. Wait a minute, the Chutz Miploni was his brother? Let's say the Chutz Miploni was his brother. And his brother went ahead and married her. But why does it have to be liach? It can be anyone. But maybe he's just giving one example. Is he just giving one example because he wants to set up a Yibum situation? Lamites. Well, I don't know what that is. So again, what happens? He gave her the get, blown. And now what happened? What happened? Who somebody married and somebody married. And what happened? That somebody died and she fell for evil. I need a diagram. Sharei eno yochel lekadsha shvu li'achar shenisa li'ach. Right, the only way that, according to the Rosh, he can effectuate a gerushin that would be matir to that ploni is if he marries her a second time around, but he can't marry her a second time around because she's married. But she can marry anyone except for that ploni. But I don't understand why he's introducing an ach over here. If he did a Rosh, ein biad hamegarish latira kol chiyomos echad. Once again, I have this feeling I missed something. I miss a piece of the puzzle. Yeah, that I understand. So I'm going to stop here. I don't know. I'm going to come back to this. And I mean, unless, gentlemen, can you enlighten me here? What we can always take out the Marit, but maybe you have it in Bar-Ilan, the Marit. Does anybody have Bar-Ilan that you can print out the Marit? Oh, you know what? Maybe we can find it in HebrewBooks.org. He's trying to set up a machlokas between Tosas and the Chuvas HaRosh. That's the goal line here. And how we reach the goal, it would take me a little bit more time to work on this. Maybe if I go back to the review of the Tosas. But the goal here is to show you that if the Rosh is saying in the case of Harei Megureshes Chutz Miploni, that he would have to marry her a second time around, that's not going to be possible if in the meantime, again, I'm assuming that Ploni is his brother, right? So there's Reuven and Shimon, and Reuven allows his wife, Ola Rachel, to be married to his brother Shimon. So Shimon goes ahead and marries someone. And now there's a question of whether if Shimon dies, then if she falls for Yibum to Levi, she's an Ashes Ish to Reuven. And according to the Rosh, there would be no way possible in this scenario for Reuven. No. I don't have that. That would be a Kiddushin case. And then we're talking about a Gerushin. All right, I don't want to keep you. So we'll make a note that we want to come back. I mean, this is fascinating. There's got to be something here. I'm just missing the so-called the cheshbon. We're creating a machlokas between Tosa Rosh and Tosas. I don't understand the logic of Tosa Rosh unless somehow the second issue swallows up the first issue. I mean, that's pretty magical. Okay. All right.